Good?
Yep.
All right. Hey, kids. Welcome to Fuzzy Loaf Podcast, where we talk about what's happening in comics, TVs, movies, and other nerd stuff for the week. You can find us on iTunes if you search Fuzzy Loaf.
Yeah,
Soon.
Soon-ish. Yeah.
Soonish.
I
You
have
used to
to
be
get
able
the
to,
email.
now you
Yeah.
can't, but whatever. Anyway, I'm Scott.
I'm Matt.
That's Matt.
Yep.
And let's just roll right into it because we've got a busy weekend.
Yeah.
Not a lot of news to talk about, so we dragged up some stories.
Yeah.
Of the four we have, what do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about George Miller.
George Miller first? Okay, cool. So if you haven't heard the rumors, there's John Schnapp said that he's pretty confident that George Miller will be directing Man of Steel 2.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you right off the bat, while I grab my thing on what I had to say about Man of Steel, what do you think about that first impression?
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit. I like George Miller as a director. He's really good, like visually and creating like a very distinct world. I think he's a lot better at it than Zack Snyder because Zack Snyder is a little one note, in my opinion. Like all of his movies feel
So
like
dark.
just look like a Zack Snyder film.
Yeah, I did like Watchmen, but that's the only Zack Snyder film I liked.
Yeah. And I said I have a little bit of concern about like the dialogue and that kind of stuff. I know he's not writing, but director kind of you're there to pull out the best performance in the actors.
He's more style over substance.
Yeah, it's more the world tells the story versus the characters, and I think in a comic book movie there has to be some sort of balance between that because otherwise it just doesn't end up working very well. So I would be a little concerned about that, but I think giving the reins of Superman 2 to somebody else would be
Good.
a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. I've loved Mad Max Fury Road. God damn, stupid phone.
Yeah.
I loved Mad Max Fury Road. And,
Same with me.
I know there's not a lot of dialogue in Fury Road, but that's kind of because Max is supposed to be like the silent protagonist. But obviously someone else will write the film. George Miller would just direct it.
Yeah.
But so I made a list here, and that I posted on Tumblr and Facebook the other day of what I would like to see in Man of Steel 2. So I'll just like read it to you, and we'll just bounce off of my points. My number one, I put less sepia and more color.
Yeah.
And others like, I know Miller can do this. Have you seen Mad Max Fury Road?
Yeah.
The colors in that are just so.
And that's actually my concern with DC in total is like even from what we've seen from Batman v Superman and from Suicide Squad, both of them look not necessarily sepia tone, but they're very like drab. Their colors are very like washed and faded. They're not very vibrant.
Yeah.
Like even Harley Quinn, her outfit that's normally like obnoxiously colorful is like kind of more subdued variants of the
brightest
colors.
thing is the Joker's green hair. That's pretty much it. Number two I had was let Henry Cavill speak.
Yeah.
Because honestly, my thoughts on the first Man of Steel was that he didn't really have much to say. He didn't really say much. And after seeing The Man from U.N.C.L.E. last weekend, he sounds like freaking Superman in that movie.
Yeah. I haven't seen that yet, which I really want to.
You would
but
enjoy it.
Yeah.
A lot, yeah.
But like the trailers for Man of Steel, you had a lot of dialogue from him. Like it was narration, and it was like him talking for
But
Man of Steel.
those were like all his lines.
Yeah,
in the whole
exactly.
movie.
And when I saw those trailers, I was like, man, we're gonna get. I was thinking like an entirely different movie. I was
Me
thinking
too.
more of like an internal reflection movie, like Superman, where he's like struggling with himself.
There's just a lot of points in the movie I didn't really like. But I mean, not to say I'm not excited for any upcoming movies. I just didn't really like that one.
Yeah.
And my number three was use Brainiac or Parasite as a villain. Just anyone besides Lex Luthor. Because Lex should be in the film because he's so integral to Superman. But he shouldn't be the main bad guy of the movie.
It's like what we talked about last week is like with Doctor Doom for Fantastic Four. Lex is more of a like background villain that Superman deals with over time, not that he confronts in one movie and is done with.
Right.
And
Lex is always there. So you should have other people in the mix.
Yeah. And I think having somebody that a villain that can show like Superman's human side instead of like Zod, who basically made Superman break.
He was just anti-Superman. We need to see something different.
Yeah, we need.
Because Zod and Lex are like the only villains we've ever seen in Superman movies.
Yeah,
We need to see something where like Parasite is he absorbs power, right? Maybe he could test Superman in that way. Or Brainiac is just this crazy weird force, and where Superman can't just fight him; he has to use his mind a bit.
And those are the best Superman villains, in my opinion, are the ones that Superman is way too overpowered. You know, he's
I will
nearly
agree to
invincible.
that. As a big Superman fan, I do agree to that.
And I think that's that's where a lot of people have issue with Superman, and that's where I did for a while until I started reading Superman comics. And then you find these arcs where it focuses on, you know, here's these villains or here's these problems that he can't fix by just
Punching
being
them.
super fast or super strong or, you know, the heat laser vision or whatever it is. Like he has to think outside of the box. Those are the best villains and those are the best arcs. So I want to see something like that. I agree with either one of those.
Yeah.
Would be a good choice.
Basically anyone besides Lex, really. My number 4 and final point was don't be afraid to go weird.
Yeah.
Because the best, like we were kind of saying, the best Superman stories deal with crazy stuff. And if the Flash TV series and Guardians of the Galaxy have taught us anything, is that, you know, audience will go for something that's a little crazy.
Yeah,
out there.
I mean, I think the Flash is really the first example of this, where they went with really weird villains that normal people that picked up the show just because it was on TV or whatever had no idea who they were. But to fans of the comic book series, it's like, oh my god, this is like a deep cut. This is an old, you know, really old, really cheesy villain that I never thought I'd be able to see on screen.
And it's happening.
And it works, you know.
I mean, Superman deals with like shrunken cities and crazy cosmicness, and I think don't be afraid to go there.
I think what we've seen with comic book movies so far is they focus on these main story arcs that even if you're not a huge comic fan, you might have some understanding of the story arc. Like Ultron, I know they changed stuff up a bit, but
yeah, the title was Age of Ultron, but it was really I think it was Ultron Unlimited was pretty close related to what it was based off, but very different. Many liberties. Same with Winter Soldier. It was based off the Winter Soldier run, but had incredible
or like
differences.
Civil War. We're getting these things that most comic book fans know pretty intimately, and even though they're going to change things, I think it'd be good to see these like kind of more bizarre storylines with different villains and just more liberties
Comics
taken.
are really weird.
Yeah, exactly.
And the movie is.
I mean,
I say don't be afraid to go. Obviously, they are afraid to go like too weird, which is understandable. Sometimes comics get really weird, and even I'm just like, this is just real weird.
yeah.
Like I was reading Secret Wars #5 this week, and I was like, this is really good, but I don't know what the fuck is going on.
I still got to pick it up. I haven't read it yet.
Have you read 4?
I read through 4, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just went to Big Brain on Thursday and bought a bunch of comics because I'm like 2-3 weeks behind on all my comics.
Yeah.
One you should read, I want to recommend to everybody real quick, little tangent. Pick up Archie, the new Archie comics by Mark Waid and Fiona Staples on art. Fiona Staples is leaving, someone else is coming on, but still going to look great.
Okay.
It is awesome. I would give it a 10.
Okay.
And of an Archie comic. It's totally rebooted. They're on issue number 2, just came out on Wednesday, so it's really easy to catch up if you have to. But check it out. It's definitely worth it. It's just delightful.
Okay.
But more real, more down.
Yeah.
Not like that 50s Archie. It's modern Archie with the same kind of delightful flavor without feeling hokey.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Sorry, we got on comics, and I just had reminded. Oh yeah, I've got Archie this week.
No biggie.
I really screwed it up.
So what are your thoughts on George Miller? Do you think he would make a good director for Superman 2?
I think it'd be pretty cool. It'd be interesting. I'm more curious. The thing with the DC movies more than anything is I'm more curious and excited.
Yeah.
Where it's like if you do get George Miller to direct it, I'm just really curious to see what that would turn out to like.
Yeah.
Sorry, my eye is all
No,
itchy.
you're fine. Yeah, I agree. I think he could make a really interesting director, a really good choice for the film. and it's one of those things like Marvel has Kevin Feige, who has this perfect idea of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe should be, or like near perfect idea, and then DC doesn't really have that person.
That's the thing. I was watching I think it was Collider Heroes or Collider or something, and they were talking about kind of like the difference between the two companies, where like it's almost like filters. You know what I mean? Like this. So like it starts off for Marvel, starts at the top at Disney. Starts with Bob Iger, and then it goes to Kevin Feige because Disney tells them what then they can do, and then it gets. Then Kevin Feige, then it gets sprinkled up from him, and then goes to the directors, and then from them it sprinkles out even more. So like, it has to go through these different phases, these processes to get to the final product.
Yeah.
Where with DC, it's just kind of like, I'm not using that as like a negative tone, the fart floop noise, but more like instead of getting distributed through the filters, it just goes directly.
Well, yeah, it's like, you know, I'm sure they might have approached Zack Snyder for Man of Steel, but Zack Snyder might have also been the one that approached them and said, I have this idea, and they might have found you know what I mean? Like with Marvel, it's not director comes to them, we want to do this film. It's like
Marvel shops around for people.
I mean, that's evident even with like Edgar Wright, where, you know, they were in talks about that as far back as
he was working
Iron
on
Man.
it since before Iron Man. He was working on. It's almost 10 years he was working on it. So.
But yeah, I that's my main concern with the DC Cinematic Universe is, like on the TV side we have Greg Berlanti, who's basically the overseer of all the DC shows so far. He's attached
and then you have
to Arrow.
Jeff Johns writing those shows too. And Jeff Johns writes comics.
Yeah.
And it was rumored, it hasn't been announced yet, but that Jeff Johns is going to be writing the new Batman movie with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. Cool. That'd be cool. But besides Constantine and Gotham, I don't think he's attached to either of those.
No, he's not.
But he's attached to Supergirl, he's attached to Arrow, and he's attached to The Flash. So I think all three of those have a good chance of surviving, and I think they need somebody like Greg Berlanti for the movie universe, who is like an honest-to-God DC fan, not just a Batman fan, not just a Superman fan, not just, you know, a Flash fan, but like a fan of all things DC, and can kind of be there and be like, well, no, this isn't how Superman would act. This isn't how Batman would react in this situation.
That's out of character.
Yeah. Because they currently don't have anybody for that role at DC. But
yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about that I thought was interesting, because we were kind of going on about it before the show, is apparently Miyamoto has said that Nintendo is actually open to movie adaptations of their properties now. And we were kind of talking about how that could work. This kind of goes back to the rumor a few months ago of maybe like a Legend of Zelda Netflix series.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Could work as a film too, because of there's so many different stories. And you brought up people's concern of, well, Link is a silent protagonist, doesn't really talk. It's like, well, make him kind of like Mad Max, where he says maybe like a few words.
Yeah. I don't know, it could work. I think a lot of their properties could work in different ways. Like Mario could really work as like a kids show.
You could make Mario animated.
Or Kirby. There's a lot of Disney characters and stories.
You could have Metroid for the adults.
Yeah, or like something like Fire Emblem could make, you know, a really interesting
cool
fantasy. Yeah, cool fantasy show. And it could be a more like maybe
I would love to see a Star Fox.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that Nintendo has is they have
great
a staple
characters with great rich stories of any like because people talk about video game movies sucking and whatever. I think Nintendo, out of all of the video game developers, has the best character and stories to make great video game films.
It's just they've made a couple stinkers.
Yeah, but that was back in
that was
30 years ago, and people didn't quite understand the property, and they didn't have as much of a story developed.
And they licensed them out to other studios that you know.
Nintendo would have to make deals with. Maybe they make a deal with Sony or Universal. Probably not Sony.
No,
because they're competitors. Maybe like Universal or something, or whomever, or Disney or whatever, and they work with each other to get these properties.
No, and I think this is completely believable. like this is something we could see because we're already kind of seeing it on their video game side. They're licensing some of their characters, not licensing technically. They have a partnership with like I can't remember the name of the mobile developer.
I don't know,
but
any
they're
mobile
releasing.
developers.
It's like one of the biggest ones.
Okay.
In the world, I guess, does a lot of video or a lot of mobile games for like Tencent and stuff, which is like in China. But they have a partnership and they're releasing like 4 games over the next 2 years on mobile. So we'll see what those are and how that works. But yeah, I think that's the one thing Nintendo has going for it is its characters and its stories and stuff. Because I think its hardware has been lackluster basically since GameCube.
GameCube had some issues behind it.
Well, I just mean like compared, they've always been underpowered. I think since GameCube, and they had like a commercial hit with the Wii, but I don't think they didn't continue to sell games for the Wii.
Using a Wii U, I love the Wii U. I think it's really fun. It does have its issues, like it can only connect to the internet over Wi-Fi. It doesn't have an input like an
Ethernet. Yeah.
So lag is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the games on the Wii U look great because it's finally the first time Nintendo's got an HD.
Mm-hmm.
About time. But I mean,
yeah, it's apparent by their hardware sales.
Their games aren't the problem. Their games are awesome. They have hardware issues.
Yeah, because PS4 I think outsold the Wii U in a month that it was out.
Yeah.
And the Wii U had been out for like almost a year up until that point, or a year and a half.
No, it wasn't out that long before.
Yeah, it was. Because it came out the year before and in the summer. And
the Wii U came out in 2013?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
No, because the PS4 came out in 2013.
Came out in 2012. Let's
PS4
look this up.
didn't come out in 2012.
No, the PS4
U
came out in 2013. Release date.
Because I remember my roommate got a PS4 after we moved into our first house, and
it was November 18th, 2012. So it was exactly
a year
before.
PS4. Wow.
I thought that it came out in May of that year, but still, it just goes to show. And I think a lot of their issue is they lost a lot of the Asian market because a lot of the Asian market focuses on mobile games, which is why it makes sense that they're moving to release some of their games on mobile. And they got burned by last generation with the Wii with the motion controls because a lot of like Chinese and Japanese apartments and like living quarters are very small, so you can't really use a motion controller if you're in a small living room. It kind of inhibits.
They were
a lot
trying
of
to
the
be
games.
innovative. I think with their next venture, they're going to dial it back a little bit, make it go back to
hopefully.
the more classic system instead of trying to be crazy. The gamepad for the Wii U though is awesome.
Yeah,
because you can play any game that's in your Wii U right on the gamepad. It makes it really simple. I think Nintendo will find ways to survive.
No, I mean they still I think have more money in the bank than Sony and Microsoft, or not Microsoft, but Sony and
they've
like,
got
the
enough
Xbox
money
division.
like saved up to last them forever. All right, so another thing that we wanted to talk about this week was kind of fun. Marvel is doing a ton of variant covers for when they do their all new, all different relaunch.
Yep, which is this
fall-ish,
September or October.
Whenever the fuck Secret Wars ends.
I can't remember if it's September.
Well,
or
okay,
October.
Secret Wars is only on number 5 right now.
Yeah, and we have 3 more.
Yeah, so however long
I
it
thought
takes.
it was October when number 1 started releasing, but I
It's
could be
gonna
wrong.
be all over the place. So they've got action figure variant covers. They have hip hop variant covers. They have cosplay variant covers, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's cool because we're seeing a lot of people that they're like big in the community for like Comic-Con and like all these other cons and whatever that chose to dress up as these characters, and we're seeing Marvel support that versus like in the past we've seen with companies like Nintendo has been kind of down on user created stuff. Like they don't like it when people use their IP, but like Marvel is taking that and going, this is really cool, we're going to use this
Fan
as
service.
yeah
And
it just encourages more people to do something like that because you never know in the future
cosplaying
that could be
to
you.
me, I'm just like, that's free advertising.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean it's just like with Let's Plays on YouTube, like a lot of companies are, I don't know if I want my game played, but it's like, dude, a lot of people go out and buy the game after they watch somebody play it.
Why would you not want people to see your game in action? What do you have, like?
But I think that's cool, and then, like the hip hop variant covers sound really cool. You're explaining some of them to me, and it's like,
there's an it's Sam Wilson, Captain America, as an ASAP Rocky, the Long Live ASAP cover,
Yeah.
and so it's him, and it's in black and white, and it's him with the American flag like draped around him, just like the album cover, and it's like Sam Wilson, Long Live Cap, and I'm just like, that is a really cool cover.
yeah. I think they're not afraid to get funny and silly and kind of weird with
The
these
Squirrel
variant
Girl,
covers.
Tyler the Creator cover,
Yeah.
so good.
I still love that Squirrel Girl is like becoming a hit
prevalent.
right now. Yeah,
I got to get me a Squirrel Girl action figure, I think, for my collection.
of course you do.
Yeah, I'm going to IKEA today to buy a new bookshelf,
Yeah,
a bigger one for all my comics and action figures, because my little 3-shelf bookshelf that's like this tall is not gonna cut it.
yeah. All right.
That's all I have to say about the variants.
Yeah, I mean it's really cool. I think, like I said, they're kind of servicing fans in 3 different ways.
I think I'm gonna try to get some of those. I don't usually buy variant covers because usually I like the regulars. But I might try to. Maybe if there's one that I think is really cool that I really want to like frame or something, I'll try to find on eBay and maybe pay a little extra money just to have it.
Yeah.
It's almost like an art piece.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk Star Wars a little bit? Do we have time?
Yeah, it's we got time.
Okay. So we didn't talk about this last week when they officially announced Colin Trevorrow
Yeah, I think it was
to
last
direct
week.
Star Wars. Yeah, it was at D23. To direct episode
9.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
I forgot. I was like 10, 9. What are they on? So we were talking about a little bit before the show. So we think it's a pretty good choice.
I think we talked about it. They have like 3 very distinct. It's like 3 phases. So we have J.J. Abrams, it's gonna be like the big spectacle. He's gonna be what draws everybody back in. You know, it's gonna be kind of this grand.
He's a good way to kick off the new trilogy.
Yeah, he's gonna pull a lot of kind of wary fans back. You know, fans that were like, I don't know, after the prequels. And he's gonna get people excited. Then we have Rian Johnson, I think it's gonna be more of a concept movie, like a very
More like Empire.
Yeah, it's gonna be more story driven and less about like giant action pieces and whatever. And then I think Colin Trevorrow is gonna end it all with like a big, like either kind of creating the villain as a monster, you know,
A nice resolution.
and then it's gonna wrap up really nicely.
And Colin Trevorrow is actually pretty good with character.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be pretty good. I'm excited for anything really, as long as they don't get like a bad director. I like all these guys. I actually thought Jurassic World was pretty good. Had a fun time
like I
watching
said,
it.
it's a fantastic monster movie, and I think he can take a villain and like if he kind of made the Indominus Rex have a personality, like a vindictive personality, and that's a freaking dinosaur. So if he can do that with a dinosaur, an animated dinosaur, then I have faith that with a real life human, he can make them seem vindictive and evil and, you know, like this big bad for the universe.
And it's kind of, I was just thinking, it's kind of interesting is no one's really been talking about Rian Johnson's episode 8 very much.
Yeah.
But I wonder why that is. Is it because he's only done is Looper the only movie he's...
I think he's done a few other, but I think that's like the first big movie that he's done.
Which I thought was pretty good. I didn't think it was spectacular, but I thought it was a good concept. I don't know if the execution was completely perfect.
Yeah.
But he directed his actors very well in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with giving him these Star Wars toys to play with, he could come up with something very...
Yeah, and I think Disney has seen this work with Marvel, where they take somebody who maybe has done a few movies and like they have this distinct style about them that they're still kind of trying to tweak.
Yeah,
and it's worked out.
They bring their style into the already existing platform.
Mm-hmm. So I think all 3 of those are really good choices, and I think each one will feel like a very different movie, but will still feel connected, which is good because I think getting 3 of the same movie or 3 of the same director might not have been as good of a move.
Yeah.
And then we also have the anthology films who are each going to be directed by a different
someone
person.
totally different with their own different tones.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to all of what Star Wars has to bring.
Yeah.
And we've seen some new toys leaking and stuff too. Damn.
Yeah.
gotta get
Just
me
wait till what is it? September
September 4th.
4th.
4th Friday.
Yeah.
I gotta get me a Black Series Captain Phasma, the Chrome Stormtrooper. I'm gonna get a Finn.
Yeah.
Next picture because Finn is starting to become. I haven't even seen the movie and I'm like, yeah, he looks pretty tight.
Yeah.
And I gotta get a BB-8, some form of BB-8.
You got to get the real one that rolls around.
Put it in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone would like that.
Well, I guess you have a lot of stairs too, so that probably wouldn't work very well. Yeah.
God damn it. All right, so let's get into Scott's thoughts. Sorry,
Okay.
you're I don't know if that's like the wind, but no,
It
my cat
probably
allergies
is.
are getting really activated today. So for Scott's thoughts this week, I wanted to talk about legacy characters.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you don't know what a legacy character is, it's basically a sidekick or someone else, basically a superhero mantle being passed on to someone else.
Yeah.
So like, probably the first legacy character or I mean, like there's the Flash, Barry Allen technically
is,
Jay Garrick.
yeah.
Then you have Wally West who took over for Barry Allen after he passed away. The Green Lanterns are kind of legacy characters. You had Robin, he's definitely a legacy character, as well as Batman when Dick Grayson, the original Robin, took over for Batman a few years back, which I thought they should have kept that like that. And the reason I want to talk about this is because Marvel has never really had legacy characters before because they never had sidekicks or anything. So now they're really implementing it, where you see Miles kind of taking over for Spider-Man, X-23 Wolverine,
Sam Wilson.
the Jane Foster Thor,
Yeah.
Sam Wilson Captain America. And I just wanted to say that I am a fan of legacy characters.
Yeah.
I like change it up a little bit. Let's get someone new in there and switch it up. And I wanted to know what your thoughts on legacy characters are, who maybe some of your favorites are, and I'll share some of my favorites. Yeah.
Okay. I am a huge fan of legacy characters because
You are. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's the reason I want to talk about this, because I was not sure what your position
I
was.
think it's a really great way to say, okay, what if we took, this idea of Spider-Man, these superpowers, but then changed the story around it and explored some different topics, and like with Miles Morales, they can take the story different places than they could with Peter Parker, and it's the same powers, or largely the same powers.
It allows you to get creative.
Yeah, and it allows you to tell a different story. We're not hearing about Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and Uncle Ben gets shot, and with great power comes great responsibility. We're not hearing that story again for the 50th, 60th time. We're getting Miles Morales, who's telling like a different story and who's dealing with different things. Where he's younger again versus Peter Parker.
And it's a good jumping on point for new readers, where they see, they get this new character, and then maybe they can relate to this different.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of people, like their favorite Flash is Wally.
Yeah.
Wally is their Flash, not Barry, or probably not Jay, because that was a really long time ago.
Yeah.
But like Wally is their Flash because they related to him, they attached to him. So it gives people a chance to jump on and attach to these new characters.
Yeah, and it allows the old characters to develop in different ways. So for like Peter Parker, what we're gonna see in All New, All Different, he's not gonna be the same Peter Parker that we've known. And
he's
we may
moving
not,
on. He's
we may
doing
not
something
like,
different.
like I know that you don't necessarily like the way that they're moving him. You'd prefer him to still be married to.
I'd prefer him to be married to Mary Jane and
Yep.
have him become like the family man, but they're still taking him in a different direction than what he's always.
Yeah,
been,
and
which
it's
is
gonna
what I
be
like to see. At
interesting.
least it's different than what we have seen.
It's like why I like Batman Beyond so much. I fucking loved that show, and I loved the comic because we got to see Bruce Wayne as an old crotchety fart, and we got to see a young kid who enjoyed being Batman, and like
it was a different take on.
yeah,
Batman,
it was
for sure.
It was Batman if he was Spider-Man, kind of, a
Basically,
Batman if
that's
he
what
was
Batman Beyond was,
if he was
yeah.
Peter Parker, where it's like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm kicking ass. Like I feel really good about myself. I'm dating this girl, and it's like that's not what you get with Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne
It's
is
doom and gloom, and
he's all like, my parents were killed when I was a kid, and I can't love anybody because then they're gonna get killed too. And it's like, he's a great character, but we've heard that story, we've read it a bunch of times, we've seen it in movies. We know him really well. We know him inside and out. So it's time to let somebody else take on the mantle and bring their own baggage and their own stories to it. Like X-23 is really interesting. I love when they do the gender swap too.
That's the thing I was gonna say with Marvel. For the most part, it's not only are they giving them different
Or
characters,
ethnicity,
different
too.
ethnicities, different genders taking up these roles, and I really like that too, because then it's a real big change. Where like maybe girls never read Wolverine, maybe they didn't because they just weren't a character they were interested in, but now they see, you know, woman being Wolverine, and they're like, oh, maybe that might attach them to that character.
Yeah. Or like Spider-Gwen. I know this technically isn't a legacy character. I mean, kind of is in her telling. You know, she takes over the mantle for Peter Parker, who
No, she
died.
doesn't. Not in the.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't Spider-Man.
Oh, he wasn't Spider-Man.
No,
Okay,
he was
I
the
didn't
Lizard,
read the Spider.
actually.
I didn't read the Spider.
She was the one that got bit by a spider instead of him.
But it's still an interesting take where you have this character
Yeah.
who's normally, you know, the helpless damsel in distress on the
And
side.
now she's the hero.
And yeah, and it's
like Jane, like the Jane Foster Thor.
yeah, and I think it's a really good way to like let these characters that we've come to know and kind of expect them to be one way to start acting a different way. And like I said, we're seeing them with these powers that we're familiar with. Like, you know, Spider-Gwen, she's going to be mostly the same to Peter Parker in the power sets, but she's going to take on these challenges in a different way. She's going to resolve things differently. She's going to, you know, have different... She might have some of the same rogues gallery, but she might have different... maybe different people take up these mantles, the villain mantles.
That's the
too.
thing. Like, we've already kind of seen with Miles. Maybe Peter would deal with something this way, but Miles will deal with it a different way, and seeing how it differentiates. I just really like. Basically, I like change in comic books. I don't want something to be the same exact way for 50 years. It's a good way to change and develop.
Yeah, and I think they're starting to finally get that, because for basically up until, you know, the last 20 years, besides small changes, like, I mean, and I say small changes, but we've seen it before with like you said, with Jay Garrick and then Barry Allen and then Wally West, but it's like they're really changing how these characters that we know
Completely.
Yeah, they're like,
And then-
even in DC takes a lot of big risks sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the DC stuff that we're seeing coming up with like the Batman with the bunny suit and shit like that. But I mean, you never know. It might be a really good version of Batman, or
Could be. One thing I wanted to say too is going back to like the changes part. Like, okay, you know how we saw Spider-Man grow over the 50 years, and where he did get married and all that stuff, and then like a few years, like I think it was maybe almost 10 years ago already, they got rid of his marriage and brought him. So basically, he had all this change in character development, and then they were like, nope, and then brought him back. And now I think Marvel's starting to realize maybe we actually should stick with that character development instead of keeping him stagnant in the same
I hope
way.
that it's a tighter like loop. I hope that it doesn't take another 50 years before we get another Spider-Man besides Miles. Like, I hope we can continue expanding and exploring characters in new and different ways.
Exactly.
And we're seeing this with all new, all different than like Marvel relaunch, because we're seeing like the Thing is now part of Guardians of the Galaxy, and Star-Lord is no longer the leader of the group. And like, we're seeing these characters, not only like legacy characters change how
Just
everything is,
shake-ups
but
in general.
yeah, just shake-ups in general. Like, teams are changing.
That is actually one thing I liked about the Justice League after Forever Evil was Lex Luthor joining the Justice League. I was like, well, that's an interesting take. And I actually, that adds a totally, you know, a bigger dimension of character to Lex and the Justice League.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to see villains take on hero roles too.
Yeah.
Or even
vice versa.
Yeah,
It's happened before.
like Reed Richards.
Reed Richards, it's not really a spoiler.
Oh
'cause
my
Ultimate
god,
Stone
it's
exists.
so good though, because
Where
he
becomes
makes
the biggest bad of the.
he makes a great villain, and it makes sense because he's ultra intelligent. You know, it's like, why wouldn't he become evil if, you know, these set of circumstances happen to you? And it's like, that's a really interesting way to take the story, and then it like allows what they're doing in Secret Wars to happen.
Yeah. I just think it's so. I'm glad. It's kind of cool we're on the same page. It would have maybe been interesting to see someone who doesn't like legacy characters, but I don't know anyone who doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think you can only hear the same origin story and like the same story so many times. They either need to bring in new heroes and new villains, or they need to be able to shake it up with the old ones.
Yeah. At first, I didn't really like the Sam Wilson Captain America, but I gotta say he's grown on me to the point where I made him the leader of my Avengers team. We did our Avengers lineups, so
Yeah. I still haven't read much with him as Captain America.
I haven't
but
really read anything with him. Really, it's more of just seeing him as Captain America more and more. It grew on me. I was like, yeah, I see him as Captain America now.
And I think he makes a more interesting Captain America than Steve Rogers.
Yeah, because he was a different hero, you know. And then one thing I wanted to bring up with legacy characters too was I just, with the movies being the way they are now, legacy characters are a good way to be like, keep your continuity and change actors. Where like we see Chris Evans' contract is going to be up. Maybe Anthony Mackie's Falcon will take over for Captain America.
And I
it's
hope
a good
this
way
is the way that they're going to handle it, because I don't want to see. It was fine when Mark Ruffalo took over as the Hulk because
it made sense for the time.
Yeah, kind of was almost a reboot, even though that stuff still happened. It was just like, he is the Hulk now.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see,
After
somebody take
12
over
movies,
for
we
Robert
can't have a
Downey.
different-
Yeah, I don't want somebody else to take over for Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. It
would have to be a different character as Iron Man.
Or a different hero that can take up a similar role.
Fill in that spot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, I hope that's what they're gonna do going forwards, because I really, who are you gonna get to replace Chris Evans as Captain America? I mean,
It could be Bucky. It could be Falcon.
I mean, like, if you were just gonna we're gonna cast somebody else as
playing
Steve Rogers,
Okay.
and it's like that.
That's the thing where the legacy characters come in hand, where it's like, well, yeah, maybe I could just just have this character take up this position.
And it's like or move on to different stories. Let Steve Rogers as Captain America be like, he's out of the Avengers. He's done now.
He's on to
like either one of those would be a good choice in my opinion, because I think it'll be more jarring for the public audience to be like, I don't even know who you'd pull in that is believable as Chris Evans. But like, here's built blonde actor number 2, and he's always been Steve Rogers.
His name will be Chris too, because there's already 3 Chris's in the Marvel universe. Yeah.
But it's like I don't think it would work. So I don't think it would work very well. One person that I would really like to see, because now that I was just thinking about it, Kate Bishop take over for Hawkeye.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
Or even,
we need more females. On
maybe
that
not even
team.
taking over for Hawkeye, but like as an apprentice or something. That'd be really cool to see.
He trains her.
Yeah, and then as maybe why can't I think of his name right now?
Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner. Like as he's transitioning out, then she could transition in.
Well, I do want to see more women on that damn Avengers team. Technically we have 2 now. That is not enough.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Marvel has really good, strong female characters, like Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel and She-Hulk and like all these other characters. So it's like
the Invisible Woman, which they had rights to, but
yeah, but they have all these great characters that they do have rights to. That why aren't they using them? Why aren't they putting them in?
Maybe they will. Maybe they're waiting for them. So. Yeah. I think that's it. If you do or do not like legacy characters, let us know in the comments or whatever. Join in the discussion. Let us know what you think, because we're pretty much on the same page. That makes the discussion not as interesting. So if you have a different opinion or you want to play devil's advocate with points that we can't think of at the time, let us know. I think that's it for today.
Hopefully the podcast will be up on iTunes if you want to listen that way. So just search Fuzzy Loaf. If it should be up by Tuesday.
If you weren't aware, we realized
maybe.
We had to change the name, and we're just like, this will just be the Fuzzy Loaf podcast from now on.
So it's a continuation from Nerd Alert. We'll probably just retitle the other ones. Yeah. And just change it to Fuzzy Loaf.
Yeah. Just make it easier.
Same podcast, same topics,
same
just
BS,
nerdy stuff.
Same 2 dorks.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you want to find me online, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr at ScottyBoy, SCOTTYBWO 4 Ys.
Because 3 Ys was taken.
And Matt, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and the whole internet, basically at Hagnerd, HAGNERD. You can follow us at Fuzzy Loaf. And
Like, comment, share, subscribe. And smell you later.